Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday, May 2nd, 2022. It's my daddy's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear dad. Happy birthday to you. As you can hear, my voice is a little hashed. That's because your vocal cords are a mess. And as it turns out, like if you didn't go to the gym for a while and then you went and you did a really hard leg day straight out of the chute, you'd probably spend the next 3 or 4 days waddling because you were sore. I basically did that to my voice this weekend because I haven't been singing on a regular basis in the choir or anywhere else. And then we sang karaoke this weekend, and I sang a lot of karaoke, like a lot of karaoke. Anyway, today is a special day, and I'm excited to do this live because people who were here, who make time to be on the YouTube, will be able to also make contributions to the Living Free in Tennessee 22 Spring Workshop recap episode. That's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about insights that we got from the workshop this year. This is all from my perspective, and I tapped into the couple of staffers who are still here helping clean up this morning. And it was more insights than recap. I'm not going to do a play-by-play. I think the first time I ever did one of these, it was play-by-play by session. It would be really, really, really long if I did that, because this particular workshop had more sessions than any workshop has. We had simultaneous things going on. One of the cool things about it is we tap into people who have skills who are here. And the thing is, everybody who comes here has a skill. So in the evenings, we end up with just all of these simultaneous sessions. It's really cool to watch and to see what ends up being talked about. And that happened this year. This year was the workshop that I envisioned back in 2017 when I first thought, I think I'd like to do kind of a workshop thing on my homestead. And then I bought a ticket and went to Jack's. I had this picture in my mind of what that would look like. And it took 5 years to get there, right? 5 years. So when you're thinking about your vision and your idea, I think something that's really important to know is you take a step and another step and another step and another step. None of my workshops have been bad. Everyone's been better since the last one. And this year was baseline of where I have wanted these spring workshops to be. And it took 5 years. 5 years of hard work, 5 years of lots of all y'all helping me. It was just great to see it. I was euphoric the whole time. I was also very tired. Some of you may have noticed, because we did a lot of pre-work to get ready for this, because we built Taj Mahal. I think Taj Mahal and the energy shift that happened as a result of Taj Mahal really helped set a good foundation for this year's. It was 5 years of heartache, hardship, injury, recovery, and more to get to this point. And we've had a lot of people in and out. I love it. Before we jump into the entire main segments of today, I do want to remind you, if you want to give me feedback or ask a Stump the Sauce question, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, you can send me an email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. 2, you can also say, you can hear like I'm firing on 1 cylinder instead of 7 or 8 or however many are in there. You can go to the website, livingfreeintennessee.com, click on contact. That'll come to me. Woo! Got it out. Anyway, I got distracted because Dawn said we didn't have rain for the first year. Not entirely true. Dawn, you may have been asleep when this happened. On day 2 in the morning, after they said it was not going to rain at all, we had rain for 4 minutes. That was so light, people still stood outside in it. So we technically had rain. We've had rain at every workshop. Last year we had Tennessee 1 inch in half an hour scale rain. This year, everybody was a little bit, warm. Okay. Also, before we jump into our main segments, the Tuesday Live is happening as planned tomorrow. And it is the first Tuesday of the month. You know what that means? Jack Spirko, John Willis, Nicole Sauce get on the horn and talk about stuff. And I'm just going to put this out there that I'm guessing there might be some conversations about cryptocurrency on the Tuesday Live. That's over at my YouTube channel, Living Free in Tennessee. You can also catch it at the Survival Podcast YouTube channel, John Willis's YouTube channel. It's on all of those locations, and it ought to be, we might even get on John Willis's Facebook. I don't know, it just depends. Okay, with that, it's time for the first segment of today's show, and that is Tales from the Prepper Pantry, where we talk about storing what you use and using what you store. And pretty much everything that I have to say about the pantry has to do with the workshop, because that was all the week was all about. So we used up all of the green beans that I canned last year at the workshop. We served them, and we actually had to add a gallon of green beans that I bought at the store, and it was just enough for 74 people. Just enough. So as a result of this, I have become aware that Nicole Sauce needs to can an extra bushel. So I thought I was going to try to grow 2 bushels of green beans this year. I'm trying to grow 3 now. We're seeding this week because we're finally warm enough without a frost to get stuff in the ground. So green beans, I'm putting bush beans up in the upper garden. I am putting pole beans behind my house. Thanks, Nick Ferguson, for that idea. And we'll get things going. And worst case scenario, if the farmers around here do well, I can buy a bushel. But my focus this year is, while I do like tapping into my local network, how much can we produce really here again now that we've got things shifted around and more of a permaculture approach to the property? We did feed 74 people for 4 days off of meat grown here or grown from the network, and had no problems. Everybody loved the food. It was so great. So that went really well. We had venison roasts. We had rubs from Sue Zoldak, rubs from Melissa White to compare. We had salmon that was shipped in, rabbits from Cider Hollow Farm, chickens we raised here. All of the chicken we had at the event was raised here. I didn't buy it at the store this year. Self-made bacon. I made bacon from our pigs. AutoFab made bacon, not AutoFab. Leos made bacon from his pigs. We had breakfast sausage, my grandpa Darby's recipe, but I added garlic because my grandma didn't like garlic, but I like garlic. And I replaced the MSG with celery salt on that recipe. And so much more. The beef was local. Everything was great. Now that that's all done, I'm assessing my shelving solution in the prepper pantry because it's time for me to take on that big project. But you won't hear me really talking about that till the fall, probably, because there's a lot more to do between now and then. As we do this episode, guys, I did it live because people who were at the workshop could say things. I'm going to say this one from Iowa Farm Boy. Matt here. My wife, Brittany, went to the workshop. She loved it. She said it helped her so much to meet people that think like her. Yeah, this is great because one of the things that comes out of the workshop, a lot of people tell me, I don't know, I don't like being around people. I don't do well in groups. And they come here, and the first day they kind of sit around the edges and observe, which is typical of an introvert, guys. And then they realize nobody cares that they're introverted. Nobody cares if they walk off into the woods to get some alone time. And everybody's super supportive. And we probably have a 10 or 20% extrovert factor here now. We used to have a much higher introvert factor, but it's a very comfortable place for people. And I get that kind of feedback a lot. Like, it was my first year and I felt like family by the end of it. And these same people who are not super excited to get up and talk in front of everybody, the next year they usually do it on year 2. I do not force people to speak publicly because that would be a pretty mean move. Okay, next segment is Operation Independence, where we talk about building local ongoing revenue. We just passed a major benchmark here, guys. The benchmark is that the workshop has crested a hill in that it's reached the vision we have. We can accommodate the number of people I've always wanted to have. Part of what I did in year 1 was 20 people. What I did in year 2 was between 30 and 40 people. What I did in year 3 was between 30 and 40 people because that was 2020. Or no, that was probably 40 to 50 people. 4 flatlined because of 2020. No, gosh, not firing on all cylinders. So year 1, 20, year 2, 30 to 40. So it was 18, 19, 20 flatline because 2020 was 2020. 21, I was pushing the envelope. I had 65 people supposed to come. I got no-showed by 5 or more. There were a number of no-shows, and we had fewer people, and it was a stretch for the staff. And we got out of that, and they're like, that was it, Nicole. That is as big as this event can get. That's as far as we're going to go. And I asked the question after that because that was not the answer I wanted. I wanted 70 to 80 to be the perfect group size for you meet enough new people. There's variety. There's good energy, but it's not so big you can't basically talk to everybody if you want to. And that's what we did this year. The question I asked wasn't, well, screw you, we're going to do 80, or how can we make it better for 60? It was how can we accommodate 80 and make them comfortable? And that's why we built Taj Mahal, because what I realized was more shelter. The more shelter we have, no matter what the weather does, we have somewhere where we can go to stay dry. In future, we can put walls up, guys. The people who were here didn't see the walls go up, but we can put walls up to hold some heat in if we need to. It's not going to be super warm. I mean, it's an outside event. That is what it is. We can do a lot to make it comfortable. In fact, I noticed even with the walls out, with 2 propane heaty thingies going on in the chillier nights, it was noticeably warmer. Had it been below freezing, we would have needed walls up to keep it a little bit warmer than that. If it rains like crazy, everybody stays dry. That's the most important thing. So I asked my session self, how can I do this? And it was a long year of work, but it worked. And that part of why we all gelled was the energy, the visual energy, and the energy created by this rejig, to where you weren't as separated from each other all the time, but you could separate and have 2 different interests, so that karaoke was not up in the face of the people who just wanted to sit around a campfire talking. They could hear it in the distance, but they could talk. And if you wanted to be on the karaoke side, getting a little crazy, you could do that too. So that was really awesome. And that was a major benchmark for us here under the heading of Operation Independence, because now every single event we ever do here from here is going to be easier to set up. We're not throwing tents up at all and all of that. I've got a comment on my introvert thing. As an introvert, I didn't think I would like it, but I've gone twice. And when you find people you connect with, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, exactly. I may have already read that one because, the firing on all cylinders is a thing. We also did live stream it this year. I'll talk about that later. So people were thankful for the live streams. I'm glad those helped you. It's better live, but there's no reason not to live stream it. So with that, I am going to go into the main topic of today's show, insights from LFTN22. Guys, if you have a comment or question about the event and you're wanting me to see it, put at least the first 3 words in caps, and I'll know you mean for me to see that rather than talking with each other. That's how I cut it out from the rest of the stuff. And I'm going to talk first about getting ready. So this year, both Tactical and I, at the end of it, he was like, this event went way smoother. The staff knows how to work with each other, all of that. And yet, at the end of this event, we are more tired than we've ever been in years before. Ma Sauce is more tired than she's ever been in years before. And I realized, as we were talking this morning over coffee, the reason for that is that the pre-setup was way more intense. And then, because I am crazy, because homesteaders can be crazy, we also processed 4 pigs, right? So here's a little bit of what happened in the setup. First of all, there was a huge cleanup to do after all the construction and the ripping out of one retaining wall and the building of another retaining wall. And none of this has to do with there was a crappy contractor leaving stuff around. Like literally, there was just everything wasn't where what goes. And there was a lot of extra debris left over. We had to get off the property. And this is really where the community helped us a lot. A whole bunch of people came out on a GSD weekend and just took loads to the dump, helped organize stuff, helped start building the outdoor shower, like cleaned up down at base camp where there also had been projects done. And the funny thing is, the theme for the workshop was connect. And the way we even made it to the workshop was with community coming here, people willing to give a whole weekend of their time. But it went beyond that, in that people came back kinds of onesie twosie, because I was starting to get like over peopled. And when I get over peopled, I get tired. And if I'm too tired going into this workshop, I don't perform well for y'all. And I needed to perform well for y'all. So people kind of reach me out on the side who know me well and were like, okay, I'll come do this thing, or I'll come do that thing. Somebody who did a lot of that was Ryan Steva, who wasn't even officially coming to the workshop, but he's been a good friend to the community. He's actually where my plucker I no longer have is. He ended up inheriting that under the understanding if somebody else needs to use it, they can borrow it from him. It's a barrel plucker for chickens, because the more of us who can process when we need to, the better. And it's way easier with a chicken plucker. But I mean, he came out and spent several days here helping. And then the setup. So even though everything was built, we didn't have lights, we didn't have power, we didn't have everything set up the way we needed to. We were moving the coffee station from one place to another. Both Matt and Miles came, and we ran a whole new electrical service to the event space that's on my business electricity. And then we figured out how to get power to the lights. We got 2 20-amp breakers for the 2 coffee makers to be next to each other. They spent days running that, days, and just asked. They didn't even ask for a thank you, but thank you. Both of them were also not at the event. They were just willing to do this. So that's where community helped with setup. And we started with setup, I think 2 months ago, that we started getting ready to be able to be set up for this event. Just in case you're planning any events, it's going to take a lot more setup time than you ever thought. This is not like going to set it up the weekend before and you're ready to go. It's never been that way, right? And I started earlier than I usually do because I could see the scale of the chaos out there, right? And if we had not done that, if the community had not come out, if all of my electrician friends hadn't done things, if Eric hadn't come out and helped process pigs and do all the other things that he helped with, if that had not happened, then this one day that happened Sunday before the event would have been a huge, huge problem. And I refer to this day as Everything Breaks Day. We had some other infrastructure improvements in place, including a brand new event fridge that can be a freezer or a fridge, so I can do processing. And it was 35 days old, full of workshop food, when Mom said, I think it's warmer than it should be. Luckily, it was still below 42 degrees in there, so the food didn't get exposed, and she caught it right away. The compressor went out. And you know what's funny? And then my smoker, which is less than a month old, broke, where I was cooking all the holler chickens, 6 chickens at a time in advance so they could be sous vide reheated for the event. And Tactical was in a foul mood that day. So we also always have this one day where the holler neighbors are all grumpy at each other. Like, we don't get in fights, but we're like, rah, 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 rah. That was that day. So I was like, pretty sure we brought some negative energy in here and made our fridge break. Well, maybe not that, but he was already grumpy. And so I just started, getting on the phone to see if I could return the fridge. Lowe's wouldn't take it back because within 30 days they will, but it was 35 days. And then I got on Amazon about the smoker, and they gave me a refund. And that was awesome. They gave me a refund and then said, don't ship it back. And I ordered another one so that the kitchen crew would have one. And we just started troubleshooting. And about halfway through, he's like, did that brand new fridge break? And I'm like, yeah, it sucks. But here's the thing. Right before the event, Nancy Alexander, Mark's wife, reached out and said, is there anything you need? And I said, you don't happen to have extra fridges around, do you? Because I can always use more refrigeration. She said, well, I have these 2 portable freezer or fridge coolers because they used to sell meat. And that's how you keep it frozen or refrigerated when you're transporting it. Do you want to borrow those? And I'm like, yeah. And she met up with Brian Young, handed them off to him. He got them to us. which was a big, no, I guess we picked him up at his house. It was like a big thing because it was all on Easter weekend, right? And the community saved my rear because that fridge broke. I could not get it replaced. And those little coolers could be a freezer or a fridge. So we just actually executed a strategy where we took everything out of my fridge, sent it away to haul our neighbors. My whole fridge and freezer in my house became an event fridge. And then we had her little cooler as a fridge set up. And then she had a big freezer cooler that all the stuff I'd pre-cooked could all be put into. So it was all in one place rather than you had to find it in different freezers. And without those guys, this event would have been a huge struggle because the event refrigeration went out for the one that was supposed to be dedicated to like first meal, second meal, third meal. They were going to be all, or the vision was they were going to be all organized by meal. What really happened is Oxy did some extra work and documented where everything ended up, and they got it all done. And I'm really thankful. So the community really helped there. And to give you an end to the story, the master built smoker has a design flaw where steam and smoke gets up in the control panel through this hole where the cable goes to the power to get to the control panel. I noticed it was wet. I took it apart. I dried it out. I got it working again. I call it the horrible hole of humidity. So I'm going to end up mounting that control panel somewhere else on top of the smoker so it does not continue to get exposed to that. It's a known problem. I don't know why they haven't redesigned that. I mean, I don't know why they don't just automatically have a here's the fix for it, because it seems like you could fix it with some silicone. Don't know exactly, but that was a known problem. When I realized I could repair it, I was able to not have the one I reordered come. So I basically have a free smoker that's, sketchy and doesn't officially work, but I was able to get it to work. Critical thinking helps when it's like you observe, you see a problem, you're like, actually, can I fix that? Fixed that. The refrigerator, Tactical, has good relationships with some people at a different Lowe's from where I bought it. He went, gave him puppy dog redneck eyes, and they were willing to take it back. Now, I understand we could have also still bought the extended warranty, at which point they would have had to take it back anyway, and they probably know that. They took it back. There was another one in Crossville we could have picked up. That would have taken hours of time, and we were in the middle of setup. And I was like, at this point, we've solved the refrigeration issue because Nancy was kind enough to let me use her coolers. And so we'll just have a different solution by next year. We're looking at using a commercial solution instead of the refrigeration, and we're going to wait till all the dust settles and talk about it. This is all before y'all came here, by the way. We had a last minute speaker cancellation. Ken Berry did not make it in person because some things happened that, like, this happens every year. Some speaker has something come up that's a thing and they can't make it. The good news was he made time for us to live stream in, so we still got that session, but the community really stepped in and helped and let me move everything around. Poor Carrie Brown was like, he was like my guy. Hey, will you do your presentation last minute at a different time than you were planning? And he did. So that worked well. There were AV problems. I have a brand new computer I'm coming to you from. You know what? Apparently the refresh rate or some setting does not work with my projector. And in order to live stream Ken Berry in or get anybody's PowerPoints to work, you need it to work. My old computer that used to talk to the projector bricked right before the event. So I had no options. Harry Albright, who was here, let us use his computer the whole time. It worked beautifully. People at the event saw some glitches where I was like, oh, it wouldn't work. We started a couple sessions later than we intended because of that. So here was a lesson I had from all of that setup chaos is be careful the theme word you choose for the workshop, because just like the word of the year workshop, you can get the opposite experience too. We had all these problems. The word was connect this year, and it was the connections that got us over the hump. So that was really cool. Okay. With that, I'm going to transition into reading you something I read this morning. I read a number of things, but I thought it would be fitting to read this one. And I did not even ask this person's permission to read their post from Facebook. Last year, right after the workshop, Crystal Morley reached out to me and she said, hey, I'm willing to jump on your show and do a recap. And she basically wrote my show notes for me for this. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Now I don't have to do my work because Crystal just did it for me. And we had a pretty good recap show from the perspective of a new participant. This time she wrote a good summary, and I thought, well, let's make this the new tradition. We read Crystal's summary before we go. No pressure, Crystal. Now we're just going to do it this year. You don't have to do it every year. So this is what Crystal said this morning about the workshop. What kind of workshop are you going to again? How on earth does one describe the Living Free in Tennessee's annual workshop? I tend to just say it's a homesteading and lifestyle design workshop camp out in the holler in Tennessee. But that doesn't even begin to describe the experience. There's honestly so much going on at any given time. First, there's the connection with old and new friends, the coffee, campfire, and karaoke. There's food, which is mostly grown, raised, and foraged right there on the homestead or on one of the other attendees' homesteads, prepared and served by incredible people. And yeah, there's bourbon. There are scheduled sessions which cover anything from aspects of entrepreneurship to the proper human diet to aquaponics installations, building wealth, social media, homestead tools, ham radio, processing rabbits, saving and sharing seeds, off-grid energy, wild edibles, and then there are the salons, where anybody with skills are welcome to put their name on the board and talk, demonstrate, and teach. Knife sharpening is always a big one. I got the opportunity to play with some of the sexiest knives I've ever held in my hand. MT knives, y'all. And beyond that, everywhere you look, people are sharing their skills with each other, having conversations that skip right over small talk, and just enjoying good company, learning new things and expanding our minds, and taking an outdoor shower if we are so inclined. Luckily, enough of you were inclined that we didn't have an odor problem. Anyway, I headed into LFTN22 feeling mighty burned out and honestly wasn't sure I was going to attend. As soon as I expressed that, though, I had an inbox full of messages. What can I do? How can I help get you there? You need to come. These are people I met either once, last year, or met this year for the first time. Seriously, this group will do anything and everything possible to support you. How could I not go? It was a long drive, 11 hours on the road Wednesday, and logistically difficult to make arrangements to get there. But in the end, as always, it was worth it. Might not be most people's idea of a vacation, but I find it fulfilling and good for the soul. Thank you to Nicole and Mama Sauce and the countless other folks that make this workshop possible. Last year, I went for the first time and recorded the recap podcast afterward to give a first-timer's perspective. This year, I was brave enough to speak during Tell Your Story in 5 minutes. Next year, well, who knows what the next 365-ish days will bring. Maybe I'll have something to present. Here are just a few of the photos I took during the event. So I thought that would be a fun one to read before we go into my impressions. But it was, I just was sitting doing my notes and I saw that online. And I'm like, I totally have to read that. So thanks, Crystal, for that. I hope that helps people understand the sort of the breadth of what happens at the more intensive on-site LFTN workshop, because some people are a little confused about Self-Reliance Festival during this. Both of them are great events. This one's smaller on purpose, tighter relationships, and it's mostly driven by y'all. But anyway, that's where we are. So here's what we, the facilitators, got out of it from you. And I think it's important for me to say there are sessions and we learn from people. There are demos and we learn from people. There are conversations we have where we learn from people. And the funny thing is I learn things from the presenters every year and they're great. But you know what else? I learn more from you than you learn from me at these. And I don't mean that any of the presenters aren't good because they're great. It's just the getting to know of the community. There's always so much to learn, big picture, from the people that are here. And I get re-energized. Like right now, as I said, you can hear that I sang too much karaoke. And and that's okay. I'll just develop nodes. It'll be fine. And I'm tired, but I am spiritually energized after this in a way I haven't been all year. It's been a slog for me this year. And I've been doing everything I can think of to rejuvenate my soul as part of taking control of my life. And it's just been, I felt like one punch in the face after the other this year. And I'm trying, it's like, okay, that hurt, but I'm going to keep going, because at some point you just got to take ownership for your happiness. And I've found great things this year. I've had great friends this year, but I was feeling a little bit like, geez, that's gone now because of this event. The main theme was connect. And the reason for that is that you've heard me say many times, underground networking is the thing I'm doing. That's it. And by that, I don't just mean I will come give a presentation about what underground networking is, how it works, and how we can get started with it or grow it. That's part of it. But we need to live it right now. We've been living it our whole lives. The podcast community we have is an underground network. That's y'all. And it's already there. But with some of the challenges we're having in supply chains and all of the other stuff going on, it's even more important that we have direct relationships and support each other and know how to connect with each other to help, to encourage, to sell each other things, to trade. That's so important. It's becoming more important. And even if things don't go to hell, if we have a strong underground network, we have a strong foundation to be successful together. And I think that's important. I think it's important to have the best of both worlds. We can help in hard times. We can help in good times. This is like Jack Spirko's themes, right? On his podcast, helping you live a better life if time gets tough or even if they don't. We need to do that together. We need to do that through connections. And that was the topic. That was the whole theme. And I don't know who noticed who was here. I wish I had a picture I could flash up on the screen. There is a sign that Carrie Brown made that's LFTN22 and it says connect. And it's like this really cool shape hanging under Taj Mahal now. That's going to stay for the rest of the year. Right there where it is. I'm not taking it down. Last year, we all signed a sign. This year, I didn't think to take that down and have everybody sign it. So whoops. But that is a visual reminder of the underground networks being so important in our lives. And after all that, as we were talking, we realized from the, sort of the organizer's perspective that there was some major themes that came out in presentations, in conversations, in the fun we had. And here are three. You guys know I do my three things. These are three that really percolated to the surface. The first thing was about failure. Failure is not bad. Failure hurts, but failure is not bad. And almost everybody who talked or gave a presentation who is perceived as more successful now talked about their failures. I think my favorite reframing of the word failure was it's not a failure, it's an opportunity to learn. And I know that sounds like turn your frown upside down, but it is true that when you fail, you learn something. And if you move on, that's where you start getting more power. That's where you start doing the second thing I'm going to talk about. So failure, things happen and you fail. I failed at this workshop to show y'all a build because what the plan was, things happen. We were going to dig a hole and put in the sump for the aquaponics and show you how that's all plumbed. That was the goal. And I don't know, 10, 12 of you helped dig the hole. What did you find in the hole? You're in the holler. You found a big boulder we can't move. Like every time I try to do anything here, I'm like, and how much will it be when you find the big rock you can't move? Because we're going to have to rent a jackhammer, right? My favorite moment, the first time Ken ever put anything that had to be buried here, Ken Esch, he came in, he goes, Nicole, and he's kind of scratching his head. I found your bedrock. So we found a rock and we kind of dug around, or they dug around. I was actually at the sessions. They dug around trying to figure out how can we maybe move it. And here's what happened. We were connecting. There were a bunch of people who know a lot of things that they don't acknowledge to themselves that they are well versed in, right? And they basically said, well, I guess we need a plan B. And by the time I got back here, it was plan like 3.13 that they came up with. They came up with an alternate plan. So instead of burying the sump, which is a stock tank, I'll be putting a mini Miyagi in right there with a pond liner. So I was originally going to do a Miyagi build, and now I am anyway. So we failed. We failed at that particular plan. We learned from it. We came up with alternative plans, and that's what's happening next. You'll see video coming out about that. I do have a relevant comment from the live stream. I was taught that fails stand for first attempt in learning. Yeah, that's exactly right. First attempts in learning, and failing is opportunity, and community solutions can help you figure out the next step just by talking about it with each other. Okay, that was one thing. The second thing, it all boils down to you. This was funny because I had a whole thing in my presentation that I thought about for weeks where I'm like, I got to say this to everybody. They need to hear it. Sue gets up and says it. And then I say it. Tim says it. John Willis says it. John Pagliano says it. Pretty much anybody who was doing more of that entrepreneurship focus was saying, it's all you. We said it in different ways, but it's all you. And you got to let go of doubts. If you're going to be successful and there's that voice inside your head talking, and it's talking to you and telling you why you can't or why you're not good enough or all of those things, don't feel bad about it because that happens to everybody on some level. But don't dwell on it, because the only way you get started is if you get started. And we I think last year we talked a lot about analysis paralysis, where you're spending so much time trying to figure out all the things you need to figure out before you start, so you don't fail, that you don't start, and therefore you fail, right? You got to let go of those doubts. Anytime you try to do something like this event that I do you know how many people told me to my face I'd never be able to do this? And yet here you were, with lots of awesome people from the community helping me make this event. And there are a lot of people who helped me make this event happen and make it good for you. I'm doing the event. It was awesome. We had a great time, and we got it done out in the country and not at a hotel. I was told that was impossible. I was told I wouldn't be able to get people to come out here. I was told that I wouldn't be able to at least break even on costs. I was told that I couldn't have an outdoor event. I was told that nobody wants to learn this stuff. I was told all those things. But it all boils down to you saying, I don't think you're right, and I'm going to make this happen whatever you tell me. You need to believe in yourself. And as I was talking about that, I was watching people go, oh shit, I'm one of those people who does not believe in myself. And the looks on your faces in the audience, I could see. And I was like, yeah, that really was targeted at you and you and you. And oh, I didn't know, but you, right? It was targeted at you, and I hope you took it. Because when you believe in yourself, you figure it out. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to levitate by mentally focusing on it and I believe, right? I mean, reasonable. I'm going to make this happen. I have made the decision to make this a success, or if it fails, learn from it and make the next thing a success, whatever that looks like. That may look like you have a coffee roasting business, or it may look like you get really good at roasting, hate it, and move on to something else. But you take those lessons forward, and you are responsible for the success. You are responsible for the transition. You are responsible for everything. You're responsible for the failures. If you do that, you move forward. It all boils down to you. And knowing that you're responsible for that, you're responsible for regenerating yourself, for getting the reset, for taking on what you need to take on to take care of yourself, right? Suze was really highlighted ways that she resets herself as an entrepreneur. You're responsible for making the sales. John Willis was talking all about that. You're responsible for making the money. If you're sitting there going, I don't have enough money, you're responsible for figuring out how to get enough money or how to change habits and save enough money. And I know it's not complicated, but it can be hard. But when you do it consistently, that was the other thing, consistently, day after day after day, things start coming together. They don't come together all at once. They just start coming together. And there are so many, I mean, I can't even, highlight all the sessions. There's so many contributions that we see from people who believe they have a solution, who believe they can be good at what they're going to do, who believe it's the right thing. And the third thing, this one was important. Stop panicking. Stop the panic. I know there's scary stuff out there. I know it's scary to start your own business when you start it. I know it's scary to hear about food shortages. I know it's scary to hear about the Great Reset. I know it's scary to hear about the war with Ukraine. I know it's scary to think about nukes coming in and blowing us all up to kingdom come. I know it's scary to think about a militaristic takeover of our country where they come hunt you down in the country and shoot you dead. That's all scary stuff. So what? If you panic about that, you hurt only one person, and that is you. If you don't panic about that stuff, you take steps and you do what you can do and you make the best thing you can make, and you're in a much better position if any of those bad things actually have an impact on your locality, because you'll be mentally there. You will have taken control of your health and your weight. You will have taken control of your ability to feed your family. You will have taken control of your ability to defend your family. You will have taken control. It will all boil down to you, and there's no reason to panic. And the sad truth is, sometimes people get shot when they're driving in their car on the freeway, and sometimes the tornado hits your house, and sometimes war does erupt in your location, and you will be in a better place if you don't panic. There was a lot of panic motivation this year, and I'm hoping that people let go of that. We talked a lot about balanced journalism, how to verify information, some of those things, and then community solutions. Why do you think I'm pushing on the underground network so much, right? Connection, community solutions, success, and resilience are all part of what we need to do together. And never underestimate this one word in the word community, you. The you in community. It's not the I in team, but there is an I in team. We'll talk about that in a different episode. The you in community is so important because it all boils down to you. And when all of the yous in our community take ownership, take responsibility, start supporting each other, stop making excuses, our community gets stronger. Your community is only as strong as the weakest person. So this year we learned about the you in community. And there were a lot of great yous. I've got a comment here from Nate. I got a mental ass kicking at LFTN. The motivation will keep me rolling through the year. We got some solid ideas, business and land management to keep us busy. Making a few steps today. That's great. Yeah, a lot of people said, I'm going home with all the ideas. But that is what it is. Also from Homestead Glamour, this year I decided to try home repair. My appliances broke. Yeah, I've watched her fix more appliances than who knows. And then the last comment I have is, does Taj Mahal provide benefits beyond the workshop? Of course it does. Every other event we do can be under there. And when I walk out with my coffee in the morning, I don't get rained on. So that's really awesome. It does in the winter time. There's more heat under there. There's a bit of a heat retention. So there's a microclimate that's been created that we're shade cloths going up this summer that hopefully will be retractable. That's the long-term plan. We're growing hops up under it to shade it, putting the tomato hedge up because I need to cool under there in the summer. Same microclimate idea. Anyway, I hope everybody thinks about what the you and community is, what taking ownership and taking responsibility and really taking control of that little doubt voice in your head and telling it to screw off. I hope that really comes through this year. And then remember, failing is an opportunity. And while it can hurt when you're like, that didn't work very well. If you don't fail, that means you didn't start. And we all got to start. I hope you enjoyed this recap. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week. And I'm totally willing to sit here and chat with y'all in the live stream. I just wanted to have that little pause for the podcast episode. We got this one. Brittany wants us to throw on a mini fence building workshop when we need to put up our fence. Yeah, do it. Fencing is a thing. We've done a couple of fencing demos here. We've never done a fencing workshop, but there's a lot to learn in the fencing world. And Dawn Sutton, I need to talk to you this week. So anyway, every workshop I say it was the best workshop, right? But I think it's better every year. And really watching the people gel with each other on day one. And by midday, day two, everybody just wanted to sit around and talk and not go to sessions. I mean, people went to sessions, but they're like maybe half the participants at any given time were off doing other things instead of sessions, which is not bad. I think that's good. That means you're connecting. I'm different than other conference organizers where I'm like, well, is what it is. Like you need the speakers there for people to come, and different thises and that's in the pieces and parts in the network will want to see this person or that person, but it works. And it is what it is. The hauler community is highly valued. Yes. Yes, it is. Oh yeah. Thanks for helping you with your chicken processing class. I think you guys are going to rock it at that chicken processing class. We're still deciding the ifs and how we're doing it. If chicks arrive this week, then we're probably doing a processing class, but we're waiting to make sure chicks arrive before we sell tickets, just because it's been a little bit of a weird year with the hatcheries, right? You never know. But so far, it looks like my chicks are shipping on Wednesday. So they'll be here. Got fencing to fence off a spot to grow fodder for the rabbits. Nice. Starting a YouTube channel. And when we were done, I had a request, and that might have been from you, Nate, but no, it wasn't. It was somebody, how to build a YouTube channel or how to build that. And I'm thinking, because Tim Cook, Toolman Tim, and I have talked about that before. I'm no YouTube expert, right? I've got 1,500, 1,600 followers, but it's not exactly a different principle from starting other things and growing them. And I think we could maybe bring Toolman Tim on and some other people, maybe Billy Bond, who has a pretty good one, and just talk through some basic getting started principles beyond the put your videos up on the right schedule sort of stuff. Make sure your audio doesn't suck. Sometimes my audio sucks. Yeah, it is what it is. Some of the conversations with people not in sessions taught me some useful information I really needed. Yeah, that's the connect. That's why I don't mind that people are off talking, because they're off solving is what they're doing. Having problems with my goats, received really good advice. Awesome. Our meat ducks arrive. 75 arrives this week. Iowa Farm Boy. That'll be cool. Are you going to sell some of those meat ducks? Just saying, I know a coffee roaster who likes meat ducks. Oh, podcast, how to get a podcast started episode helped you guys. I'm glad that did, because I'm glad you started your podcast. Yeah, so we'll see, because again, I'm not an expert on YouTube. I'm just now diving in there, and I'm really a little bit tentative on YouTube because I'm waiting for my channel to get shut down, but it hasn't yet. So I'm also building alternative video networks. In fact, now that my workshop's over, I think I'll spend the half day I need to spend to figure out if I can stream to float again and get that more secure. But it's gonna be an interesting next 6 weeks. And I am, heads up, Nicole Sauce is disappearing in mid-May for a few days. Soon, right after exit and build, I'm gonna go disappear, and hopefully I'll come back with my cookbook done and a little bit rested, because I need a rest right now. But thanks for joining in today, guys. And I will be back tomorrow with the live stream with Jack Spirko and John Willis. And then that will be Wednesday's podcast. And then Fridays will be the homestead update, which I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. But I went over the list of what we're doing this week yesterday afternoon with Tactical. And holy cow, I have a big list this week. A big list. It's going to be scary. John gave us a few ideas on YouTube as well. Yeah, he'd be good. He's built that really well. Okay. Have a good one, guys.